ABC 24 on the road with my friend Jessica Benson of Grind City Media joining me here in Seattle for the NCAA tournament first and second rounds. We are following the Memphis Tigers, who unfortunately fell to Colorado State 78-70. But Jessica, you've been able to enjoy Seattle. Been here a couple of days. What's been your experience with Seattle so far?
Oh yeah, this is my home at this point.
Okay,
my mom lives here, my family lives here. I'm here with my mom and my cousins today. My dad hooked us up with some tickets, so was already set to come here before Memphis was assigned Seattle as their location for the NCAA tournament, and it just worked out that way. So I'm actually staying about an hour out of Seattle in an area called Ruston, which is in the Tacoma region. But I got in late Thursday night, saw some rain, woke up Friday morning, saw some rain, watched the Memphis Tigers. Not rain a lot of anything. I had to watch some threes rain down on them instead. And now this is why it's the best time of year, but can turn into the worst time of year so quickly, because it's a dash of hope and it's over. And when you lose in the first round, it ends what feels like far too soon.
Yeah, we had a producer doing our 5 and 6 o'clock shows today, and the way she teased it up was March Madness turned into March Sadness pretty quickly. Let's kind of go and jump into that game, Vio. 78-70, the final for Colorado State. A lot of reasons for optimism, though, kind of in that first half for the Tigers. They led the Rams 36-31 at the half. Dane Danger looked like he was going to be pretty much unstoppable for that entire first half. 15 of his 22 points in the first half, and he had 12 rebounds. He looked like he might go for 20 and 20, but the Rams made life difficult for the Tigers in that second half. Really decided to pack the paint, make it hard for drives for Dane Danger, made it hard for drives for PJ Haggerty. Haggerty had 18 points, but shot 7 of 23. Definitely had to earn every single one of those 18 points, and despite the loss, still plenty to be proud of this season for Memphis Tigers and for Penny Hardaway.
We had an opportunity to do some special things and just couldn't get it done. And, I still told that group, that I was proud of them and that they should hold their heads high. We wanted to go further, obviously, but just the thing, everything wasn't in our favor today.
I think sometimes just the ball goes in, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it goes in better than other days, and I think it was one of those days.
Yeah, sometimes the ball goes in, sometimes the ball doesn't go in, and today felt like one of the days the ball did not go in for PJ Haggerty. I think he summed it up pretty perfectly. What do you think, Jessica?
Yeah, and sometimes you face an injury in March. It's one of the most devastating things that happens not just to the Tigers, but many teams this time of year, and how it can so dramatically change a team's trajectory. And you never like to play the what-if game, but I do think it will be a question asked for years to come in Memphis. What if Tyrese Hunter hadn't gotten hurt going into this tournament? We talk so much about the importance of guard play come March, and having a veteran point guard to lead the offense in these times is really one of the not so secret sauces to finding long runs through the tournament. And so to lose him along with Dante Harris, you're going your backup point guard starting here against a really good Colorado State team too, right? Like, I know kind of the conversation about the Mountain West after the two really brutal losses to both Utah State and San Diego State, it starts to get a little charged of, what was this conference? No, Colorado State's a good team. They have some really, really tremendous players. Obviously, Nick Clifford is one of the top players in the country this year, and he looked the part. I thought when Nick Jourdain got in foul trouble, and
tables turned, for sure.
They really
picked up four. Well, he fouled out, but picked up 4 all in the second half. And then you're looking at him, you're switching PJ Carter on him.
Yeah.
PJ Carter had 3, I think, in the first half. And so when those are your 2 primary guards for Nick Clifford, he's eventually going to start finding his groove, right? And the problem was they really did their job in the first half, but in the second half he starts getting to the free throw line. And we know for all the great scorers out there, when you're able to get to the free throw line, get a couple of freebies, get a chance to take a breath, see the ball go through the basket, then it just starts getting a little more difficult for those defenders and a little easier for one of the best guards in the country. So Nick Clifford had a great game, but it was really Casey Evans, the other guard, that wasn't really talked about as much for that Colorado State Rams team that really put them on top. I mean, in the way that they were holding down Clifford, Casey Evans kind of picked up the slack, and you would have thought the roles were reversed. He played really well, had 23 points in this one. For you, when you watched what the Tigers kind of were able to do in that second half, or really weren't able to do, what was it that kind of flipped it in the second half for you?
PJ Haggerty never really gets going, and I know he ends up with 18, but like you said, a really tough shooting performance, 1 of 8 from 3, and when you're trading 3s with 2s, that's just difficult math to come back and math with. And then how Dane Danger, both the defensive strategy changes that Colorado State threw out in the second half, and I also think he was tired. I really
exhausted.
do.
They look tired.
He played his booty off, and to be fair, sitting in the stands, I was amongst mostly neutral fans, and the hottest topic of conversation in the first half was Dane Danger. Like, you should have heard people saying the name Dane Danger for the first time, having a great time with it, saying, ooh,
Danger zone.
It's the danger zone.
Right, yeah.
The surprise they had about his quickness, his speed, along with his size. It was really fun to like take that in from someone who has watched Dane Danger play all season with the Tigers, but then he just completely shuts down. To go scoreless in the last 12 minutes when that was the primary source of your scoring so early, and then Colby Rogers was great, but Colby Rogers couldn't do it all either. When you look at how the point spreads out between the starting fives, like, yes, you get 18 and 18 from Rogers and Haggerty, you get 22 from Danger, but you had the Colorado State starting five, Memba was 2 points away from all of them being in double figures. So it was a much more balanced attack.
Yeah, 100%. 18 for Colby Rogers, 18 for PJ. Dane had 22, but then you look on the rest of that lineup, I think the highest score was 7 from PJ Carter.
Yeah.
Nicholas Jourdain really didn't give you a whole lot. Did play well defensively. It always gives you that energy on the boards, but really wasn't providing much in the way of offense. Had a couple of bad threes that just, you're looking at them, you're watching them shoot it, and you're just like, please pass the ball, please don't put one up. But they were leaving them open for a reason, and it ultimately ended up biting the Tigers. For PJ Haggerty, everything was difficult.
Yeah.
They were anticipating every single drive to the basket. Then they were doing that in the first half, but they really made an emphasis in the second half, packing it in, didn't allow Dane Danger to really operate. They were getting it to him in the post at times, but then Dane Danger had to try and pass out of the post. And when we talked to them in the post game, he's like, you got to lean on your teammates. You got to trust your teammates in those moments. And you needed a couple more threes from PJ Carter. You needed a couple more threes from Colby Rogers and those guys to kind of step up. Your All-American guard can't go 1 for 8 from 3. And granted, some of those were kind of chucking those up at the end, trying to make something happen there towards the end of the game. But ultimately, just a really disappointing experience for these Memphis Tigers. Colby Rogers in particular was hot in that first half, kind of the same way that Casey Evans was hot in the first half for Colorado State. When we talked to him, it looked like he actually tweaked an ankle. And so he was kind of dealing with that towards the end of the first half, went into the second half, just wasn't as effective. And ultimately just a disappointing result. This conversation that's going to be kind of had as we move forward with Penny Hardaway as the head coach, and somebody asked it in the post-game press conferences with Hardaway was, you guys have been able to get to the dance the last couple of years without much success, right? You have 2 first-round exits. You have 1 where you win in the first game and you lose in the second game. You get that 8-9 seed. Just kind of really disappointing stretch of tournaments for what was a really, really good season, especially this year for Penny Hardaway. We got a chance to talk to him afterwards, and here's what he had to say about trying to have more postseason success in the big dance.
That comes along with the job. Like, we want to make deep runs in March, and we haven't done that yet. It doesn't matter what happened in either of those games. I haven't gotten it done yet. Just got to get better. I understand that's going to be the subject. You just have to grow from it and just keep getting better. And that's what I'm doing.
He's did everything he can as a coach. Of course, they're going to crack down on him more because he's Penny Hardaway, so it's really not fair. But he's did all he could as a coach. He's a good coach. He pushes us every day. Even off the court, he teaches us how to be pros, how to be young men.
Bad for Penny Hardaway. Kind of listening to that soundbite, just saying, Penny's done everything that you can do as a coach. He puts us in the right positions best he can. Some of that is Coach Hardaway, right? Some of that is you got to score, and some of that is you're missing your starting point guard who was also your leader. And it was really cool to see Tyrese there on the floor in the boot. Like, he didn't sit down pretty much the whole game. Yeah. He was coaching. But Jessica, for you've been here the last several years, since 2016, I believe. Watching these Tigers kind of bail out in the first round, what's that been like for you? And what do you think about that statement that Penny just hasn't been able to have more success there?
I think the biggest thing that constantly resonates to me is the city of Memphis so desperately wants Penny Hardaway to get a team to the second weekend. Like, yes, it's about returning to the second weekend of the tournament. It'll now be 16 years since they were last in the Sweet 16. And so there is a feeling that comes with a drought of uneasiness, of upsetness, of disappointment. But at the end of the day, like, Penny Hardaway has such a special relationship with the city. Like, they want him to lead this team. And it's hard because sports are about results and tournaments are about results. But if it's all about results, you cannot overlook the fact that they won the AAC regular season. You cannot overlook the fact that they won the AAC conference championship from the tournament standpoint too. And all of those things are collective. It's not as easy as just being like, it's another disappointing year. It's a disappointing finish, but it was a wildly successful year full of some pretty high highs for this group.
You want to believe that success is linear, right? we think all success is kind of like that straight line on the graph that just points straight up. But a lot of times it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up really high, and maybe you sustain success for a reason, for a while, it plateaus, it goes down again. There are ups and downs for everybody when you have these kind of seasons. But for Penny Hardaway, it's everybody's expectations almost seem higher because he is who he is, because he had so much success, because he the things that he said when he first kind of got here, where he was very brash and bold, and we want all the smoke and those kinds of things. But what we've seen from Penny is he's become much more humble. He is, you hear in that soundbite, he's like, I gotta be better. And as they continue to get to these moments, I think he will continue to get them to these moments. But at the end of the day, people are going to look at the results and like, hey, you can have all the regular season championships and AAC championships in the world, and we already down that conference, and then for you to get into the big dance, it almost is like an I told you so. Like, we knew not to get too hype about Memphis. I mean, even this matchup where they're not on the 8-9 line, right, for the first time, and you get that 5 seed, and the whole idea of the 5 seed is that's supposed to give you a better opportunity to advance. And ultimately, like, even Vegas was like, nah, we don't believe in this Tigers team, and they had them as the favorite in this matchup. But to your point, a lot to be proud of. They won 29 games this year, right? Beat UConn early on, beat Michigan State, and you used all those wins to set you up to have the opportunity for this moment. A regular season championship and an AAC tournament championship in the same year has not been done by any AAC team up until this point, and the regular season championship was the first one that the Tigers had since they joined the AAC. So impressive.
That's improvement. That's growth. And I think you saw growth from Penny this season, from what you talked about, and also just him becoming more sure of himself. His comments afterwards are exactly what you want to hear from a coach. I know that this wasn't the outcome that was desired. I have to be better. We have to be better. All right, get to work and figure out which players are going to be able to come back next year. How do you rebuild a roster? But he's now shown to go from last year, one player held over from last year's team, the ability to rebuild a roster, to get in the right guys. Dane Danger's comments, I think, are very representative of how this whole team feels about Penny. The amount of fun that I watched this group have over the last couple of weeks really stood out. Like, that's such a trite thing to say, but they seem to really enjoy playing with each other. They seem to really enjoy playing for Coach Hardaway. And now, how do you build on that moving forward? The changes he made to his coaching staff going into the year all proved to be, positive moves in the right direction. So now you take it one step further. And just because it's hard. I can't say just because you don't get a win.
It's tough to swallow.
16 teams lost in the first round or are going to lose in the first round of this tournament. And the expectations for Memphis are a little bit higher because this is a program that wants to maintain its status as one of the best, and at least the very best of the AAC at the moment. You don't get it this year, but I do think there's so much to be proud of and so much to be encouraged upon building on.
Yeah, certainly so. And to your point, what Dane Danger said about just how much he enjoyed being with this group, when we're in the post game, he actually said this is one of the favorite teams he's ever been on. And Dane Danger's won a national championship. He played with Baylor when they won a few years ago, and he's been on a Big Ten team in Illinois. So he understands what it's like to be on this stage and to ultimately win it and ultimately to come up short. And for him to say, like, yeah, no, this team where I'm with a PJ Haggerty, a Baraka Okogie, a Tyrese Hunter, playing under a Penny Hardaway, this is one of my favorite teams, I think says a lot. And you're right, now they've got to rebuild. You got to figure out who's going to be back. PJ Haggerty's only a sophomore. I mean, he's got a couple more years. It'll be interesting to see, are we throwing him that bag to keep him another year? Is another team going to throw him that bag to keep him for another year, or does he go to the NBA? Because I think what he proved this year was that he is certainly capable of being an NBA player. I've seen some tweets where some of the media members were sitting next to scouts, and they're saying Dane Danger's an NBA basketball player. So it'll be interesting to see where his journey goes. But Baraka Okogie's young, not one of your scorers, but solid guard, defensive guard. Tyrese Hunter's done, unfortunately. Nicholas Jourdain is done, unfortunately. So Penny's going to have to go into the portal, and he's made some magic there the last couple of years. It's not something that he can't do. Place he's well familiar with, for sure. But unfortunately, a 78-70 loss for Memphis, taking on Colorado State first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament here in Seattle, Washington. Jessica, any parting thoughts about your time in Seattle, about what you've seen in the NCAA tournament so far.
The Grand Canyon student section is insane.
Live?
It's pretty live.
You got to watch all the games. I had to go
And then they
work.
were pretty dead because then Maryland, I think, was the largest margin of victory in Maryland team history. The Arizona-Akron game going on right now. I'm excited for the Oregon-Liberty game. The thing that I always recognize here, and I actually felt it in the Memphis-Colorado State game, which is odd because Colorado is not in the Pacific Northwest, but sometimes it feels Pacific Northwest adopted.
Adjacent?
I can't describe it. I grew up in Denver. I have forever home ties in the Pacific Northwest,
Is
so
it
maybe I'm
technically
just trying to
Midwest?
make a thing.
Is it technically Midwest?
The mountain region, the Rocky Mountain region. But that crowd this morning was like 85% in favor of Colorado State. And I do think you get a lot of Ducks fans that are going to show out for the Oregon game against Liberty later. And we'll see. Arizona probably travels pretty well as well. There was some difficulty getting back in the building. I was around a lot of very
you were making me
angry
sweat.
Arizona fans who in the rain, and they live in Arizona, so they don't deal with a lot of rain, and they were very upset to miss the first 10 minutes of their game. But it's always fun.
As they should.
I love coming and just sitting and watching 12 hours of basketball. I couldn't think of a better way to spend a Friday.
How busted is your bracket?
Oh, so busted.
So busted?
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah, I didn't even try. So good for you. Good for you for even attempting.
I did have North Carolina over Ole Miss, and then I thought they were going to come back. They were down like 20. Come back into that game. Ole Miss still gets the win. Who are the other ones today? My brain is broken on basketball.
My brain is broken. I've been focusing on Memphis Tigers all day. So we're actually going to send it from there. Jessica Benson of Grind City Media, so gracious of you to join me for this special edition of the 24th floor on the road, Seattle, Washington. We're going to sign off from Climate Pledge Arena. I'm Avery Braxton. That's Jessica Benson. Thank you for watching. We'll see you maybe Monday? I don't know. We'll see if I'm working on Monday. Goodbye.